Hello and welcome to Nook News. I am your host, Beth Hadfield, and I am the Activity Coordinator at the Center for Active Living. Today, my guest is Jennifer Young, Director of Elder Affairs in Plymouth. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Beth, for having me.
I'm really glad to have you here. Not only do Jennifer and I work together, we do a lot of things together. Well, right now, it's been almost a year since you've been director, and how do you think things are going?
I think things are going pretty well. The first year in a new position, you never really know what to expect other than to expect the unexpected, which I think with the support of all of the staff there, as well as all of our volunteers and seniors, the unexpected happened. And I think we handled it very well. For those of you that don't know, I was in the position for 3 months and went out early on maternity leave. I did return 3 months later, and the ship was still afloat. Thank you to the support of everybody mentioned, as well as the support of my direct supervisor, Barry de Blasio, who's the Director of Community Services for the town of Plymouth. So through all of the ups and downs and the changing of the fiscal year during the time that I was out, as well as reacclimating after the 3 months out, I think things went really well. I would have to say, if it hasn't, nobody has told me otherwise. So I'm going to stick to that.
I say no news is good news, and I think you're doing a really great job.
Thank you.
You're a great person to work with and for.
Thank you.
So there's been a lot of things in the news. There's been a lot of talk about money changing with regard to reimbursement as far as the formula grant. I thought that would be a great place for us to start. First, what is the formula grant? Can you explain that?
I can. So the formula grant is actually a source of funding that all COAs, established councils on aging in Massachusetts, can apply for through the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. It's part of the state budget. There's a line item that is directly related to this grant, and overall the governor signs off on it, goes through different legislative processes, and they decide on what the dollar value is going to be assigned to that grant. So it's the formula grant because there's a mathematical equation that's applied to it. So the past few years we've seen the value of that raise from, for example, $9 an hour, I'm sorry, not an hour, $9 per senior per resident in the town. So when I started working with the formula grant a few years ago, we were receiving in the town of Plymouth about $970 to $980 per elder in the town of Plymouth. And those numbers are based on the state the U.S. Census, which, as we all know, took place in 2010. And the census identified 12,016 people in the town of Plymouth aged 60 and over. So as it stands right now, last year we received $10 per elder in the town of Plymouth. This current fiscal year that we are operating in, the numbers just came out a little bit late, and they dropped the value of that formula grant to $9.70 per senior in the town of Plymouth. So overall for us, that was a drop from last year to the tune of $3,604, which when you're looking at a general budget doesn't seem like a lot of money, but when we're stretching every asset that we have, every dollar that comes in so thin, it's impactful, and it does directly impact the services that we can provide to the seniors in the town of Plymouth.
What does the formula grant pay for in our town?
So in the town of Plymouth, we've been very creative, I will say, in how we apply those funds to expand what we can offer to the seniors. When I first started working as one of the social workers, my position was actually partially funded through the formula grant. So the town assumed some responsibility for the salary as well as for your health benefits.
Okay.
And the formula grant can be used to supply staff to certain centers with their approval. So there was myself as the social outreach worker. We currently have another social outreach worker that filled that position when I left. The volunteer coordinator is also partially funded through that grant. So Beth is partially funded through the state formula grant and partially supported through the town of Plymouth. And we also have a volunteer coordinator who is entirely funded through that formula grant.
Okay.
Her entire salary. So when we talk about the formula grant actually dropping, it can directly impact the services that we can provide through not only our staff, but also what we can supply to the center as well that isn't covered in the municipal budget. So we, in addition to staffing, we use those funds for our volunteer recognition luncheon that happens annually.
Okay.
And as you know, and many of your viewers know, our center relies very heavily on volunteers to run our day-to-day processes. We've seen over 7,000 seniors every year coming through our doors. Over 17,000 phone calls came through last year at the front desk. And until this past July, we had a part-time receptionist that was running the whole show and working with those volunteers. So it's very important that we're able to recognize all of the great work that they do, and in turn let the state know and the municipality know how much in-kind work they're doing and how much money they're saving the town. So we also use those funds to offset any supplies that we might need that's not covered in our municipal budget, which is the money that we receive from the town for operational services.
Does the formula grant change every year? Like for the next fiscal year, which will be 2018-2019, could there be a possibility that it could go back up again?
There is always the possibility that it can go back up. What we tend to see year to year is what's called, level service funding. What can you do, or what is it going to cost to provide the same level of service that you have provided, over the last year or previous years? Accounting for, any cost of living adjustments or other arrangements, contractual arrangements that might increase naturally. So when we're looking at the state formula grant, the value of that is very heavily decided on from advocacy, from your local representation at the town level to your state legislators and representatives that advocate on behalf of the seniors. And I know that the representatives for us and the legislators that represent the town of Plymouth are really good at advocating. What we're hoping for collectively across, at least from what I know, the South Shore Councils on Aging, is that by the year 2020, we will see the value of that formula grant go up to $12 per senior in the town of Plymouth.
That's a huge jump, though, from $9.70 to $12 in 2.5 years' time.
However, over the past 10 years or so that I've been working with the grant myself, the raise to that value has been in the range of 10 cents per elder.
Okay.
I know that there's a lot of comments and references to what the state provides for those under the age of 18, and it's more than double what is actually allocated towards seniors. And I think what the problem for that is going to be that the population, the younger populations, are actually dropping in size and will continue to trend that way, while our senior populations are trending towards growth. There's been a lot of talk over the past few years about the baby boomers have been aging in, and using the data from 2010 is what we need to do for the state formula grant. So our population now, while back in 2010 was 12,016 seniors, we're closer to the 20,000 mark. And by the year 2025, the seniors are going to represent 31% of the population in the town of Plymouth. Looking at data that's supplied to the Massachusetts Council on Aging through the UMass Dartmouth Donahue Institute. So the state uses that data for projections. So when you're talking about the dollar value seeming to jump, it's actually been long overdue, really long overdue. And as you all know, not only do we provide services to the seniors themselves, we're actually servicing their children, their family members, their caregivers and providers. So to look at providing those services for $9.70 per senior, it's a stretch, and we manage creatively. We have a lot of support from our friends of the Council on Aging, as well as other agencies in the area. So we're able to make our needs met.
Are we luckier in the town of Plymouth than maybe some other towns because we are so creative, because the Friends do a lot for us or with us? Does that set us apart from another town?
I think what sets us apart from the other towns is our staff. We are very fortunate to have a very energetic staff at the center that actually not only cares about their job, but cares about why they're doing their job and who they're working with. Every center has a different characteristic, different personality from what I've seen. We rely heavily on volunteers. I haven't seen many centers that have more staff than us, but we also have, a 16,000 square foot building that's full every day.
That's true.
I think that the innovative programming that we're trying to introduce is bringing in more people. I think that people pay more attention to the town of Plymouth and the center because it's such a huge town, and because we were nationally accredited a few years ago that, we're in that top 2% of centers in the country, that people look to us. So I don't think, I think people just pay different attention to Plymouth.
Okay. Recently in our newsletter, we had a cutout section, and we were talking about Shine. And we know that Shine was in the news recently and is being cut in the sense that we can't add any Shine volunteer Shine workers to our staff. Can you elaborate a little more on that and what's going on with the Shine program? Sure.
So for anybody that doesn't know what Shine is, it's servicing the health information needs of everyone. They're volunteers. It's a volunteer-run program that are very well educated in the Medicare options that are available for retired seniors or soon-to-be retired seniors that are looking for information. And the reason that we find it so valuable is because the Shine counselors not only receive intensive training, but they sit down with individuals for the period of an hour and go through what their medications are, what their medical needs are, and compare actual plans, looking for, while you might think a plan is at a higher cost initially, the coverage of the medication that you're on might actually be lower. And they can do this annually during open enrollment, which we're currently experiencing right now, which runs October to December every year. So we have, fortunately, 3 Shine counselors, which is almost unheard of when we're talking about the differences in COAs, that work at the Plymouth Center for Active Living. And they receive 2 weeks of training every year, as well as monthly meetings and any updates that they need to keep on top of the changes in Medicare itself. So with that being said, if there are any cuts to this volunteer-run program financially, it tends to come from the federal level, which is what we were looking at and still are currently looking at as a possibility, where they would cut the education and the funding to that education. So it's a trickle-down effect. Essentially what will happen is our current volunteers might not receive any new information because there's no paid staff to actually train them. And additionally, should we lose any of our current volunteers, which have been with the center, I would have to say, for more than 10 years apiece, we can't replace them. You know, there would be no funding to educate them, so we couldn't possibly ethically bring somebody in that isn't well trained to advise anybody on changes to their Medicare health insurance coverage.
Do you have any idea about how many people a year the Shine counselors meet with and talk to?
I couldn't say specifically. I didn't look at the statistics recently. I know that the 3 of them are there every single day for the majority of the year, or they're each there at least 1 day a week for the majority of the year, and now during open enrollment every single day. Between seniors that come into the center and phone calls and outreach services that they provide, I would have to say it's probably close to 1,000, if not more, seniors a year that they work with. So it's a big number. It's a direct impact on, you know, the seniors living in Plymouth or people that are, you know, close to retirement age that want to really understand what their options are.
So what is it that, I know in the newsletter we have a card that's, they can actually write about their Shine experience. And what is it, why are we asking them to do it, and what are we looking for? So
since Connie DeLago retired, one of the largest legacies that she left with me and with all of us at the center was the importance of advocacy. You know, as a social worker, we always advocate for people that can't advocate for themselves or give them the tools to do it for themselves. So what we've done in this specific incident is we're asking for the seniors that have met with Shine counselors or spoken to Shine counselors in any capacity to tell us their story. We're not asking for any identifying information. We're trying to collect the stories on why it's important not to cut the program, not to cut funding to this program. If you're savvy on the internet and you're Googling information on what this means, you should look up the SHIP program. That's what it's identified as at the federal level. In Massachusetts, we do refer to it as Shine.
Okay.
So it's, we're going to collect these cards, you know, in the hopes that we can send them off to Washington, just so that the voices can be heard. You know, a lot of these people that are representing or talking about cutting haven't been through the experience and may never go through that experience because their health insurance is, you know, covered through a private method. So, you know, we've been asking a lot for advocacy for yourselves through the newsletters around the corner that we've been writing. And this is just one of the many incidences we've talked about over the past year. So we're hoping to get a good collection of letters by the end of the year that we can send off.
So how can they send their letter to us?
So it's available in the newsletter as a cutout. It can be dropped off. It can be mailed back. It can also be emailed to any of the staff at the center. Everybody is well aware of that. And if, you know, it can be handmade, it can be mailed in. Any way that we can get it. The way we get it doesn't matter, just the story that we have that we can share is what's important.
And we'll be sending those out at the end of December. So we definitely, if you can send us your story about how Shine helped you and guided you in the right direction, you know, send it to us as soon as you can. And at the end of December, we're going to mail these off to Washington?
Correct.
Great. I want to say since your time as director, but I'm thinking this may have happened prior to that too, are we seeing an increase in participation or people needing our services at the Center for Active Living?
I think we are seeing a definite increase in people reaching out to us and participating, whether or not it's because they have a need that they're looking to get met, or if it's because they have an interest that they haven't sort of itched yet. We're definitely seeing an increase in participation. It could, I don't want to say it's an illusion. We've worked very hard on bringing together our numbers and statistics. And I know, you know, that for many of you that have come into the center, we're constantly asking for people to, you know, check in. We use a software program called My Senior Center, and we give everybody a Senior Center scan card to check into the center and the activities that, you know, they're there for. So we, through that process, have learned a lot about the program itself, and we're working on adapting the center to the program and all of the great opportunities that it offers. We're really looking for a complete picture of the seniors that come in. You know, what are their actual interests in programs, sort of connecting the dots. So we've seen an increase, and I'm hoping that we will continue to. We have reached capacity for what the building can hold, as you well know, Beth, with creative programming. And, you know, working sort of outside the box hours to offer programs at the center and out in the community in different ways. We're trying to continue to expand and continue to meet needs of other people. And we're going to continue to be creative in that way.
Do you think in the near future we may branch out a little bit in the community, maybe have some satellite centers? And I don't know that we can call it a center, but have staff that is in the community but not in our building stationary at 44 Nook Road, but maybe in other areas of town and do some more work.
So we have looked in the past at satellite opportunities. If we could, for example, have a social worker available in the South Plymouth or Cedarville area. We know transportation can be a huge challenge for seniors that are in need, and for other people that are in need as well. And there aren't a lot of opportunities as the population is growing in Plymouth to look at the current systems that are in place. It's not meeting the need. So we've looked at partnering with other community organizations, other town departments, with the school system on ways that we could sort of implement a small satellite opportunity. Again, everything comes down to funding. So if the formula grant continues to get cut, we might actually have to consider where we're going to make those differences up. You know, every year we try to make an ask of the town. I think that our voice as a community representing seniors and seniors themselves is a pretty large percentage of the voting population. And in order to do that, we would need to increase our funding. Because if anyone's ever been in our center, as you know, we're always running around and multitasking and doing it very well. However, to place somebody outside of the center during our normal business operations without having extra support in place, it could jeopardize the quality of what we offer. So we want to look at that opportunity in a way that is going to have longevity and be sustainable and work before we try to implement anything.
Got it. I guess that you mentioned in it, and it definitely bears having a little bit of a conversation about. So transportation from South Plymouth is an issue. Right now, GATRA runs. If they're taking the regular fixed route bus, they can take the bus any day. But if they need the dial-a-ride, which is transportation door to door, and you live in South Plymouth, you can only come up Monday and Wednesday.
Correct.
There are still 5 other days in the week. How can GATRA get funding through the formula grant, or how could we help GATRA? How could we work with GATRA to possibly get a bus that comes up another day during the week?
So the conversation has been had in the past with representatives from GATRA. They have been working tirelessly, at least through my experience, with trying to secure funding to bring on additional routes and additional staff So it's not through any fault of their own. From what I can remember during a meeting several years ago, there was mention of when the system was initially designed for Plymouth, it was designed for Plymouth at that time. And this was prior to the introduction of the Pine Hills development, Great Island, and some of the other larger Red Brook now developments that are coming in. So it changes the dynamics of what they were initially set to work with. So,
Okay.
you know, we're trying to explore other opportunities within the center through volunteering, connecting
Okay.
people that maybe can't commute together or can help assist. So that's something we're exploring right now.
Okay. All right. We also do some Tuesday evening programs. They're well attended for what goes on. How do you think we could increase some of that participation? Especially where we're going into, I call it the dark time of year, because it gets dark so early and so many people don't like to drive at night.
I think through word of mouth. I think that what we're doing is great. I think that the programs that we're offering at night are definitely different than what we offer during the day. We have seniors that still work. We have people that are aging into retirement that might want to learn how to do that well. And I think the longer we continue to offer the evening programming, the more people will come in. They just need to know that we're there and that it happens. And you know, they need to feel comfortable coming into the building.
Right.
And so we're here and we're welcoming everyone.
Good. Well, huge thing you said, that we're here and people feel comfortable coming in. We are the Center for Active Living, and we have changed our name to move forward. We're hoping that more people will come in, and maybe after listening to you and I talk today and hearing all that we're doing, they will take that leap of faith and step through our doors and come meet us and see what we're all about. I'd like to thank you very much for joining me today. I think we could go on for hours.
I think so.
And we'll have to have you come back again. Not too quick, but not too long, not wait too long to have you come. But thank you so much for joining me today, and we hope to see you all at the Center for Active Living. Thanks, and have a good day.